Welcome, friends, to another episode of the Spiritist Magazine program here at Kardec Radio. Welcome. This is Shane Martin. I'm broadcasting to you from Central Virginia at the Spirit Society of Richmond. What a blessing to be here today with another article from one of the issues of the magazine. For those who are new, even for those who are returning listeners, we want to encourage you to visit the website of the Spiritist Magazine. There, you will not only find today's article from issue 23 of the magazine, but also all of the issues of the magazine free of charge. You can find the link to the app for your phones and tablets where you can download all of the issues for your use at your convenience. So we can have access to these teachings 24/7. No matter where you are in the world, we're always carrying one of these and you can download all the content to your phone that way. And today we're going to be talking about a most important topic of clarification being a tool for loving as well. How do we deal with the blows of life? How do we deal with situations where people are rude to us, are aggressive towards us, and how the Spirit Emmanuel suggests and recommends that we act on that manner? We chose this chapter from the book The Consoler or O Consolador by Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Cancido Xavier, and this is question and answer 344. The book is not yet in English, but you can find some of the articles here at the Spiritist Magazine. The reason we find it important to look at things and look at ways to respond to the different circumstances in our lives is that in the times we live on the planetary transition from trials and expiations to a world of regeneration, is that a lot of inflamed responses, mostly reactions from us. Instead of thinking and acting, we react to the circumstances in our lives instead of being proactive. Sometimes we let ourselves react. Sometimes we approach others with aggressiveness and anger, and folks approach us with aggressiveness and anger, and we feel some of us may feel entitled to that response, which is not the kindness that you and I know that Jesus has always displayed. Therefore, if we found it important to bring these teachings to our attention this week. Remember, the teachings of Spiritism are always not only to be admired and read, but applied to our daily lives. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So what you're going to see, I guess to my left, and perhaps you're right as you're seeing this, is what the PDF version of the magazine would look like if you were to download it from the website. This is issue 23, so if you have time to go there and read with me, it's a very short message. We have a topic from Dr. Raymond Moody Jr., Claudio Sinotti, Vanessa Soloni, and also some topics about money, because who does not think about money, because money is part of what allows you and I to trade goods and services in this world. That's our system of exchange, right? So this is the message. To clarify is also love. Let's see what Emmanuel has to offer us. And I use these teachings the way you're seeing now, so that I can show to you. It's very easy to use at your home, at your Spiritist center, on your tablet. You happen to be seeing this screen on my phone, but it's just because that's the easiest for me. So there's no need for elaborate things. You can, of course, copy this into a nice looking PowerPoint, which I've used to do in the beginning, but I want to show to you that the teachings are available and easy and to work with. So the question posed to Emmanuel was, should the love of neighbor be taken to the point of submission to abuse and brutalities of individuals who are less educated in the gospel lessons? Should the offended humbly tolerate it without the right to clarify regarding to the mistaken attitude? So that's the question. So if folks come to us with abuse and brutalities because they're less educated in the gospel lessons, parenthesis, if we are committed to educating ourselves in the gospel lessons, we cannot go into the world being the ones rude and abuse and brutal towards others. So that shows the lack of knowledge, perhaps the lack of application, because sometimes we know the words of the Old and New Testament, but we're still aggressive and rude and brutal towards others. But as we evolve as individuals, therefore the collective evolves, not only the planet improves in the physical conditions, but also in the spiritual conditions, then we become less rough, less around the edges, less willing and able to share and say whatever it feels like. However, how does the offended can respond? Let's say you're in a situation where someone hurts you, is abusive towards you, or screams at you, yells at you. Should we tolerate it without clarifying that that is a mistaken attitude? So how do we model the response to an abusive and brutal situation? Let's dissect it out. Emmanuel's answer. He says, the love of neighbor includes fraternal clarification whenever it's useful and necessary. So not just using truth for the sake of truth and hurting others back, but we need to clarify. If someone's coming to you angry, yelling and screaming, then we bring to them, hi, this is not the way we need to interact. Let's stop here and then return to this conversation when we are able to have an adult, calm conversation. He says, the passive subjection to others' audacity or rudeness can dilate its progress and its aggressiveness. So if we just sit there and receive it, we can make the rudeness greater. That doesn't mean we're going to engage at the same level. Sometimes we do need to zip it, but then there is a time and a place for the fraternal clarification to occur. At being subjected to abusive manifestation, the gospel believer, that's you and I, because we claim to be spiritists, and as spiritists we follow Christ as a model and a guide, and the gospel is a written account of some of the things that Jesus did. I'm sure Jesus did way more than was able to be retained in written form, continues to do it as well. He says, the gospel believer, you and I, shall learn to dissolve them, the abusive manifestations, with the utmost serenity and wisdom, in order that they are exterminated at the source of their origin, those who abuse us, without possibilities of revitalization of those manifestations. So we want to be serene and have the wisdom to know, do I act on this moment? Do I retrieve? When is the right time to do the corrective action, so that we're not adding fuel to the fire. So it's not just correcting and being upfront. assertive and setting boundaries, but it's when to do them. That is such a difficult thing for us. That's why we encourage and we teach the young emotional management, what to do when they get angry, so that when they grow up to be more balanced and serene and wise adults. So we model it. We have to learn to do it so we can model it so the next generation can do it better than you and I. To clarify is to also love. Just saying, this person is my family. I need to love them and allow them to be abusive towards me. That is not love. Because now we are potentially enabling them to remain in that circumstance of rudeness and aggressiveness, when Emmanuel says we need to learn to dissolve these. And being passive to the rudeness can make it, can dilate it, meaning it can make it bigger and more spread and more. So when we love someone, a family member or not, we clarify. At the right moment, we say, this is not acceptable. This is not professional behavior if we are in the professional environment. This is not kind, and we are believers of the gospel. And then that's a learning curve for you and I, when to say things, when not to say things. And of course, if this is life-threatening or physical injury, and if we witness them or if we are subject to them, we need to seek safety. And sometimes the clarification comes in the means of the authorities who come to remove that aggressive, um, threatening behavior from the situation. Sometimes it's a matter of calming down ourselves and modeling what it is to respond to a situation, not just react, but respond with more serenity and calm. And that's something that you and I are going to have to do daily for the rest of our lives. So it's a lifelong learning. And the beautiful thing about the current times, because there's more beauty and good in the world than there is evil, is that we can learn, we can read books, we can have counseling, we can have mentors, we can have coaches, and every time a situation like that comes about, we can learn. So we can step back and do what worked, what didn't work, how can I do it better next time. And we can learn from others' mistakes, and we can learn from our own mistakes and not incur into those mistakes, just do different mistakes later. So this is very complex because it comes down to, how do you learn to dissolve abusive manifestations with serenity and wisdom? Because to be serene, you have to be in control and say, this is where I am, this is what I'm feeling, this is mine, this is from the environment. How do I respond? And ultimately, we want to learn that emotional management. We want to learn so we are not the ones in being the abusers in that situation. I'm talking about physical, emotional, psychological. Even when we just scream at a cashier because they didn't bag our bags the right way, or the coffee, they made a mistake on our coffee order, we are being abusive. Because Christ, there's no recollection, there's no records of Christ doing that to others. So if Christ is the model, then we need to aspire to that model, because he's not only the model, he's the model and guide. So he's guiding us towards to be in the path of light for others, leaving little drops of light, like little light lit candles, so people can see, oh, their coffee was messed up and they didn't throw the hot coffee at the barista. And I'm making it very simple examples, but very prevalent examples that you would see. Everybody's filming everything these days, so it's very easy to see those examples as we scroll through social media and we spend time that way versus reading a book. So there are many examples where we can be that clarification, we can step in and help others if we are witnessing something that doesn't sound right. Right? It's hard work. But we live in hard times. We are redressing mistakes. We're meeting people from our past. We're learning to love. We're improving ourselves in the process. So there's a lot for us to consider. Let's continue. He says, all that is needed is to know how to explain well without adding the damaging expressions of egocentrism. Explain well without adding damaging expressions. So how can we can address someone and say, look, when you called me, when you did X, Y, and Z, this is not appropriate. I don't appreciate you speaking with me like that. And most importantly, let's think, if you are the one doing, if you catch yourself doing that, stopping yourself and apologizing and making amends so that the guilt and the remorse doesn't reach us. So it's a constant learning, day and night. And in Spiritism, we know about intelligent sleep as a parenthesis to this, because I'm talking about, I'm trying to give you simple examples of things that we do in everyday lives, but it also goes all the way to how to interact in the business, how to treat my family well, how to deal with strangers in greater, more impactful things in our lives. But the addition of those little acts is what makes the sum of our experiences in this lifetime. So we start small, we manage ourselves, and then we can come to this explaining well without adding damaging expressions of egocentrism. So one thing you can do that is an aid to this is pray before going to sleep. Because if you spend the whole day trying to improve, the spirits are there with you, holding our hands. So we can do that. Then at night, you can say thank you for the support, the invisible hands of God. We just studied that on this morning here at the Spirit Society of Richmond. The invisible hands of God. That will be on the book Green Light by Andrea Louise later in this week. We have so much help. And then at night you can say, okay, I'm having issues with this person, this situation. God grant me the opportunity of going to the spiritual realm, talking to this my mentor and the spirit counselors and psychotherapists in the spiritual realm. Maybe we bring that person into the meeting as well, and we can have this therapeutic session. Maybe we go to a workshop on emotional management during the night. There's just so much good we can learn, not only when we are awake, but also when we are asleep. We leave the physical body behind, still attached to it through our perispirit. Then it rests, it renews itself, and then we go and we learn elsewhere. And then we come back and apply. That's the important part too. We have to apply. He says, all that is needed is to know how to explain well, albeit with greater energy to prevent the prevalence of the error or the deviation from goodness. So be strong. Yes, yes, no, no. And if someone is being abusive, you can say, that's my boundary. You don't talk to me like that. Call me when you're calmer. Hang up. So there are a lot of ways to explain well how a situation didn't go well for you. Remember, there's two sides to the coin. Sometimes we feel offended. The other person is unaware that they said or did something that is, from what their perspective, they were upset and angry in the rightful mind to yell at people, for example. But then you have to come back and be like, hey, I love you, and I love you as a child of God, as a brother and sister in this humanity, and this is not appropriate. The way you said this or the other, let's work in a better way next time. So that's the balance. And then we learn through relationship, through interactions. We are fulfilling the law of society. We're not alone in this world. When we were feeble and young, folks cared for us and taught us. We don't build the things that we use. We are a community. We are intertwined. We are acting and helping one another. Last but not least, it says, regarding the process of clarification, how do you go about clarifying that was not appropriate? You must manage without the use of physical strength at any time and situation. We don't go and punch back. We don't go and yell back. We breathe. We learn to calm. We center. We pray for the spirits to come help the situation. However, it's fair to demonstrate the nuances of energy required by the circumstance. Sometimes we may have to say stop, be forceful, remove ourselves from the situation. Sometimes we have to pick up the phone and call 911. So that is if it escalates to physical violence. So there are many different varieties of clarification, which may vary and be based on the invariable good. But ultimately, we want to see what would be the best for all parties, the best compromise for all parties at this moment. And if someone is in need of help, if you see someone in that situation, it's up to us to be the good Samaritan who will stop and intervene before it gets much worse. Because maybe by saying something, you may save a life, you may help with lessen the traumatic event, it may help people with feelings of love, someone cares for them. So there's so much we can talk about the implications of our actions and how we don't want to be the ones with rudeness, aggressiveness, and abuse and brutality towards others. And there are ways as the recipient of those, mainly because of the, let's think this through. I'm not saying people are evil. We're just saying that as an inhabitant of planet Earth, a world of trials and expiations in transition, but still trials and expiations, it's up to you and I to grow and improve, and there are times we'll make mistakes, and then we have to make amends. We have to catch ourselves saying or doing something that is not based on what's better for the general good, because we have these individual ways of seeing things. Mine, what's best for me. We have to see ourselves as a global citizen, an universal citizen. So each and every action that improves me, aids to my growth as a person and evolution as a spirit, is ultimately something that will help everyone. And this message is from the book O Consolador by Emmanuel through the mediumship of Francisco Cancido Xavier. Dear friends, what a blessing to be with you today. As always, we love to be together to bring these teachings and these resources free of charge when you visit spiritistmagazine.org. And I want to encourage everyone to go to the website and download and read and see how this applies to your lives, how well you're already doing it, and what else can we do to make it even better. Between now and the next time we meet, God willing, I'll be back with you next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. However, if you'd like to improve even more today and have even a greater experience at listening to the teachings of the spirits, please stick around. Join our dearest friend Carol Correa with an episode of the Divine Laws. She's reading through the third part of the Spirit's book with great insights and comments, lovely heart and soul. So please stay tuned for her program at 9 p.m. Otherwise, stay well, stay safe, take care of yourself and others, and I'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.